Hello and welcome back to Gamebread. It's your hot slice of gaming bread off the toaster thingy, and this is an extra fun episode today because we have one of our old friends as a guest. So I'm going to skip past Andreas because he's completely irrelevant, and I'm going to
Jesus.
say hello to Thomas Hartvig. How are you today, Thomas?
Yeah, that was quickly. I overtook Andreas. That was unexpected. Thanks. Hi, I'm Thomas. How you doing?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this, to be honest.
Well, we don't care because now we have Thomas, and so this is going to be the thing from now on. We're not going to talk about Andreas
I
and
see how
just
it
talk
is.
to our guests.
I see how it is.
No, but on a more serious note, Mr. Thomas Hartwig here is an old acquaintance of mine and Andreas from. For me, it's all the way back to Star Wars: The Republic when I was working at BioWare, and Thomas was running or being part and running of a guild for that game. So, and that's, I mean, how long ago now, Thomas?
Yeah, I was about to say that's a long time. Were we back in? Are we back in 09 or something? Does that sound about right?
I think probably 09 for you for the game or something like that. I think the official the official announcement of the game was about 2010 when the forums opened up. And for me, it was later 2010, 2011 when I started working with the game and BioWare. So
Yeah, it seems about right. Yeah.
yeah, so probably
I think
2011.
we probably started. I think we started working on like ideas and whatnot. As soon as we start hearing rumors about the game being developed, we started sort of doing stuff. So it's been a long time.
It's almost 10 years. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
man.
Crazy. And we're still here. But anyway, so before we go to that topic, how about you, Andreas? How are you?
I'm actually pretty fine. And talking about that it's been a long time, I was actually thinking about when we met the first time live, not too long ago. Without romanticizing it, it's kind of sounded like a weird intro to something, but
That was a low point in my life.
yeah. But that was also actually back in 2010, so it's been 10 years for us as well since we met the first time, I think.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, it was like at GameX 2010 or something.
Sure, yeah, yeah. And I believe I was probably with Avalanche at that point.
You were talking about Mass Effect 3, I think?
No, that was later on.
Okay.
That was I
Okay.
think that was probably a year after. I think this was 2010. 2010, I was probably with, we don't have to go through all this stuff again, but probably so. I think 2011 was the
Okay.
maybe.
Okay.
We'll look it up after, and we'll write something about it or talk about it in a
Yeah.
separate podcast.
Yeah.
I was just about to say I actually looked up the Old Republic info, and it was announced in 08 and released in 11, so it's quite a few years.
Quite a few years. Yeah. I still think that you and I probably met a little bit later on, as in 2010 or so.
Yeah.
I remember because I remember also it was announced, but I wonder when the forums open up though. I have to check that again because I remember I was one of the absolute first one. I had the number because they had 100 slots reserved on forums for devs and mods, etc. And I was 101, so I was basically the first person signing up from a commercial standpoint as a fan on those forums, which was a fun anecdote in the interviews when I was interviewing, which is also another story. But it was first fun to be one of those that was actually there, and because they asked me in the interview if I knew about the game. I was like, yeah, I know about the game, because I know, Thomas, you and I met the first time when we demoed the game. We had a demo version out of the game.
Yeah.
One of the maps, one of the starting maps.
Yeah, we did. You guys had a demo. You showcased it at was the Dice office in Stockholm, I think.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah, I got a picture from there. Not with you though. I don't have a picture with you, which is a shame. But I do have a picture from there.
Cool. We do have another picture though from another event when we participated, where we were both in pic.
Is that yeah? That's either gonna be the what was it? Not GameX. It was the what was it? It was like a LAN event, like a LAN cafe or like a computer cafe.
Yeah, Inferno Online in Stockholm.
Yes, that one.
That was cool too. But
That was a
Thomas,
lot
so,
of
so tell me, can you tell us about yourself a little bit and how you got into MMOs and all this stuff and Star Wars and everything?
Sure. Yes, sure. So yeah, many moons ago, I was just playing games. I just thought it was fun to play games, and then eventually, somewhere along the yeah, I got the idea that I thought it would be fun to like create fan sites and news, like do news about certain games and in Danish, which is my language, and we actually started out, me and a buddy, way back, even before Star Wars, with an MMO called Aeon, which is by the way. But the second one we did, the second site we did, was the one for Star Wars: The Old Republic, and that's sort of where I got my start in this kind of industry, in the video game industry. Ever ever since I did that fan site, and I met you guys and so many other people. I started working in the industry, and I've been in some capacity in it ever since, all the way up until now still. So yeah, that's a bit that's a bit of a background story about, like, how I got into all of
That's really
this.
cool. I mean, it's a special time, and you've had gone through that yourself to understand how special it is, the time when you're in a pre-game guild and you're playing pre-games with these new people that you're getting to know. There's anticipation, and there's some news trickling through, gameplay videos. I mean, today, even today, compared to, because Star Wars: The Republic feels still quite contemporary to me. It's still quite a newer type of game where there's lots of content coming out. It's still
Oh yeah.
different from today. Today, it's you pre-market games, even online games, in a much different way. Which there's walkthroughs, there's PvP betas, trailers, screenshots, Q&As, Twitch streams, all this stuff that really wasn't there in 2010, and especially previous to that. There is now and
That's
then there
true.
was a trailer. Yeah. There's some articles being written. There's some, now and then there's maybe a podcast or a game site, news article or something like that. So back then it was even more anticipation of, because you really didn't know what to expect. There was a lot of just what the members of the guild thought of things, and you were trying to build systems that would fit how to build smaller groups that would do different things, and every guild had different types of setups. Some of them made more of pertaining to the game setups, like you called your groups little micro groups like ships or squadrons, and using a military term thing. Otherwise, other guilds had a more traditional fantasy setup of special interests, like here's the guild of assassins, or the group of assassins, or that's the mages, and some people split it up, and there's all these things that you occupied yourself with, especially when you're leading one of these groups. And I still to this day feel all that stuff is very helpful to a career in games, because you learn how to deal with people online that are gamers, which is it's a special thing. What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, that's very true. I've since all this worked, as you know, a lot with moderation, and it certainly helped dealing with gamers, like dealing with gamers every day. How to how to talk to people, and how to moderate,
Yeah,
how to
and
make sure everything is okay. I'm sure you know Andreas has a lot of experience with this as well.
yeah, exactly. Like, it's something I find valuable, like being there from the beginning, and also like uh, through voice chat and through text messaging, etc. You kind of start to pick up a lot more on like the finer subtle things and how people write and what they say, which is really important when you handle crowds online, or people online in chats or groups, etc. Which is something that, if you haven't been there from the beginning, it's hard to kind of grasp from just day one, right? How people communicate over like digital means, because it's quite different.
Yeah,
It
very.
it Yeah, it is quite different, and it's based off something that's usually a passion that devours a large portion of the day of the person. So having an understanding of that before coming into this industry and understanding the customer and the consumer is a big plus because it's a special world, and being part of also waiting for something for that long and managing it, even though if you're a member of a guild, if you're running a guild. And then of
That's
course
it.
just sitting there with 100 of say 100 people or 50 people and that you've gotten to know through a couple of years, and you're about to log in for the first time. I mean, that's a special thing, and it's especially when you're not, if you're waiting for a game
Yeah,
for say it's 3 years, and then you play that game for 5, so that's 8 years until you play another game. So it's a special moment.
very, very. I remember this is like even it felt on even a bigger scale when a Republic launched, because not only did we do a guild and stuff, but we did an entire fan site which had like thousands and thousands of people actually reading it every day, um, and participating in forums and whatnot. So it was like a very large group of people that you kind of knew on some level, at least so that yeah, that's a very special that's a very special day. It's a very special world. Now you're talking about this kind of gamers and this type of world is a very special world. It's a great world. I think it's an awesome.
That's really cool. So what's I mean, from your standpoint now, that's it's been more than 10 years then, I guess. Well, it released later, but from you getting involved with it, what's your thoughts of the game and everything? And the time you had back then with your communities?
Well, it was. I mean, first of all, I haven't played it since uh, yeah, at least it's been a good 5 years or so since I last really sort of played it. I've popped my head in from time to time to check out what's happened. And we played it for a good while after it released, and I can't remember quite how far in we how far in after, but we played for a good while afterwards, and for me, I guess that's a bit maybe a different sort of journey, a different perspective, but a lot of with these games, whether it was my first community or it was the Old Republic, it feels like I spend a lot more time before the game releases than actually after it. Even if I end up playing the game for years to come, it's typically like it's typically a lot more time that goes into it before the actual game comes out. So so for me, that's a bigger part of the journey. Was building this entire thing and participating in all these different events, and whether it was flying out someplace and seeing the game, trying the game, or attending what was it, Guild Summit we went to, like in Texas. We flown to Texas for a week or two or whatever it was. That's a bigger part of the journey than actually after it, where when the game is actually out. But it was an amazing journey. It was so much fun. I remember I had so much fun with it, and I still remember some of those trips were some of the best trips I've ever been. And I know it goes the same for the people I used to work with that did the same as I did in the other Nordic countries. These people as well, Ian. And we had a lot of fun with it. And we still talk about them sometimes, and yeah, it's fun memories. It's a lot.
That's good. So you're looking back at it fondly then, I guess, mostly.
Oh, very, very. I wish I could do it again.
Yeah,
That would be amazing.
from my standpoint is also that I was able to execute some of the things that I felt was missing in something with a large publisher like Electronic Arts.
Yeah,
When there's actually direct fan communication and allowing these people that are engaged with with your games to experience things that are special. And I wish we could have done more of that. At least I got some of it through, which I'm very proud of, and I'm glad that they also are in some different ways and similar ways continuing that, but I still feel that there could be much more done. I mean, it's always, of course, I understand there are budgets and there are people that will advertise your game in a way that's easier for you to to quantify, but treating your community with the same attention and respect as we would do with a member of one's guild is really where the magic happens, and that builds brand. Uh, that builds a brand in the long run with the community and the gamers. So that's the EA wouldn't be in a spot where people feel that they're just squeezing people for money if they have done a better job with this in the long run. But that's because the people that are making the decisions are seldom the people that have this hands-on type knowledge with gamers.
True. I was about to say, I remember one of those quite fondly. One of the that was a you I remember you put together. I think it was a little play test of the Old Republic, and it was at the EA offices in Copenhagen in Denmark. And I remember that was a couple of people from my community and my guild, and some people from another big Danish guild. Those little tiny events. It was only we were maybe 10 people or something like that. But those are those really cool little community events where I remember quite fondly.
Yeah, I remember that too. That yeah, I had to scramble to get
cool.
that done, but yeah, it was great. I mean, just go out of your way, do a little bit extra, allow the people that think that stuff is fun to do it, and you have a good base for your community management, I believe.
Yeah, and like something I'd like to add to it as well is like it's hard to introduce new stuff to already existing structures, right? So for when you have a company that's really established and you try to introduce something new, it can be pretty hard. So for example, something that me and I'm sure Thomas agrees with me on this is the introduction of social media, for example. So to have the best kind of contact with your customer, your fans, or whatever, right? Social media is more or less now the go-to way, right? If you have a problem, you go to, for example, someone's Facebook page and you talk with them there. You send them a message or whatever, and you expect nowadays to get the help you need from there. But like when introducing this kind of stuff to huge companies that have been around for a very long time. The gaming industry is a little bit younger, so it's easier to mold. But if we go to other industries, it's really hard to just get that to work, you know. So I think,
true.
yeah, so it's always a challenge to introduce something new, even when it's needed. I think.
Oh, definitely. I'd say we're still like some of the companies I work with. We're still struggling to fully embrace the social media as the number one platform for for whether it's customer support or it's just interacting or whatever. So yeah, sure, that's still a massive issue for quite a lot of companies.
Yeah, and I see a lot of similarities in the story Lion was telling with trying to introduce like here is the fan base, we can connect with them, we can do something really good that they want and that we want, you know. But it's hard within these traditional structures of how everything should work. But correct me if I'm wrong, Lion.
No, 100% so. 100%. It's also the spirit of the organization. An example, when I was working at Viaplay, and note again, it's like a Netflix kind of service, but for the North, is the CEO that was currently working actively when I was starting there. After EA, I came in from EA, and I came in with all these community things and how to engage the audience, and that's also why I was wanted in this position to build social media and all these things. Was that he was a big believer of that type of communication, so that made it easy to implement these improvements. At a later stage, when he was done with his mission, his temporary mission there, when they appointed someone else who is a much more traditional person coming from cable TV, didn't believe in it at all. And all of a sudden, there was just like no incentives. There was nothing that they wanted to do planned or wanted to allocate any budget for. which created a lot of problems if you're in a position where it's been a digital transformation and you are working in that space. So that's a typical example of when it doesn't work in an organization. So it has to permeate the organization of this is something that we stand for, that we're not an organization where we have a call center and we don't have any customer support, and the only thing we're concerned about is someone signing a paper so they can buy our service, and that's it. Boom, done. That's not how you do it in the long run. You want to build a brand and the confidence from the consumer and the customer to that brand. So you have to genuinely care about the consumer that's spending the money on you, and you have to do your best to implement things that makes it easier for that person to stay around.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Right. All right, cool stuff. So, Thomas, are you have you been playing any games lately?
I knew this question would come up, and as much as I still love video games, I played less video games in the last half a year than I think I ever have since I got my first computer when I was like 5 years old, which is terrible.
But how come?
But you know
How
how work. A bit busy. A bit busy. but yeah, it's true. I've played so little compared to what I want to. But I have played a little bit. I have touched on some games that I wanted to try. Of the latest one I sort of I gave a go. You probably heard about it. It's called Temtem. It's kind of like a Pokemon MMO kind of thing.
Oh, this I want to hear because I was actually interested in that game. I want to know about that. I haven't played it. I've only like checked some trailers and stuff and be like, this seems kind of interesting. This looks like Pokemon, but it's apparently not Pokemon, but it is Pokemon. What? So tell me about it.
Exactly. Well, that's exactly what it is. It's Pokemon, just in an MMO, which is kind of crazy. That was the first thought I had when I sat and played it, was like, how are they allowed to do this? But I guess they are. It's a complete and absolute copy of Pokemon, is what I think it is. Just different name, different monsters, and apart from that, pretty much everything is exactly as you would remember it from a Pokemon game.
Yeah,
And
I
then
mean,
it's online.
It's been like, do you remember when Pokemon got big? There was also Digimon running at the same time, and that was pretty much the same thing as well. But at least their games were a little bit different, and much worse.
Yeah, I never played them, so I can't really. Oh, okay, right. Well, it's quite a lot of it's I think people enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. It's the Pokemon MMO that people have won God knows how many years that have never been. And it wouldn't surprise me if we actually saw some kind of a Pokemon game in this kind of, maybe not exactly like this, but something more online than what we've seen before, because people seem to enjoy this one. But
it was crowdfunded, right?
I think it was. Yes, I think it was on Kickstarter or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I haven't spent that much time with it, but it's quite a lot of fun. It's worth. Yeah, I'd say it's worth the asking price. It's like a €30 game, I think. $30 game.
Yeah, I'd like to try it. But it's that whole thing with time. I think days should have like 48-hour days, so you can spend like at least 24 hours gaming. That would be nice, I think.
Is that not a thing at Wasder? I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, we have like this forced sleep schedule. No, but
oh god,
it's been like I'd really like to try it. Because it looks great. So
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. But that's the only game I've actually spent some time with lately. My list of games are very, very long, but things that are coming, not games that are actually and yeah. Apart from that, the only game I've been spending some time with is a game that is technically not even out in our part of the world, and it's a little game called Lost Ark. I don't know if you've heard about it, but kind of a Diablo-esque kind of MMO kind of thing.
Okay, where is it out now?
It is currently out in Russia, Korea, and I think China. I think it's out in China now, or about to launch in China. But that is it. So you can play their versions.
Okay,
With a VPN.
is it a
Yeah,
Korean game or?
Yes, I believe it's a Korean game. Yeah, it's developed by a company called Smilegate. I believe that. And if you're into that kind of that's a big love of mine is sort of asymmetrical or kind of the Diablo-esque games, but I always wanted basically I always wanted a Diablo MMO is really what I wanted, and this comes pretty close. So I spent quite a lot of time with this game over the past half a year or so.
How is it so far?
Very, very, very good. It's a lot of fun.
Ooh, does it have a Western release yet, or a date for it?
No, and they have even said that they do not have any plans to release, which sucks. There are other games on the way that are sort of similar to this that might hit in the Western markets, but for now, Lost Dog is it's not gonna release here, but it is playable. You can play it. There's a fan sort of a fan run English translation to both the Korean and the Russian version, I think, and it's actually quite easy to go play, and it is so.
You cut out there. Sorry, what did you say?
Did I cut out or did Lian cut out?
You cut out.
Oh, I cut out. Oh, I said that it's not out in the and it might not be, but you can actually go and play it. You can jump on the Russian version, and there's an English fan translated patch for it, so you can actually play it in English. And it's free to. You can go nuts.
Cool. It's
I'm actually quite.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
continue,
go ahead.
Lion.
Okay, I will. No, I'm kind of surprised because you when you say I haven't played much games, it's like play more games than me. Anyway, it's quite good. Or you're around games like as you would be playing it or could be playing it, so it's good.
Of course, yeah.
Did I tell you about a little game called Warhammer? You should get on that game and you should play with me because Andreas. Well, I would say he doesn't have too much time, but it's mostly that he sucks.
Which Warhammer game? There's like a gazillion of them.
Warhammer, actually not War. It's a Total War Warhammer 2. So there you go. Amazing game. But we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
And Andreas doesn't suck. It's another poke at him.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That's fair.
I'm used to it at this point,
Go ahead, Andreas.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking in regards to what Thomas said that there isn't any Western release scheduled and that it might not come, which is such a weird decision to me if it's really anticipated and people like the game, right?
Yes, and it is. I mean, there's a lot of people that really want a Western release, and it's such a special thing because there's not a lot of if you think there's not a lot of games sort of seen in the same sort of sort of same style as Diablo. It's MMO. The combat is the isometric version of like Doom or something. It's really like impactful, really fun, really fast, and really like you can really feel what's going on. So much fun. Maybe it's just not. I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of love it, and there's a lot of people playing the Russian beta or the Russian version with VPN. But there is another game coming out that is similar, and I think it's from NCSoft. It's called Project TL, as far as I remember.
NCSoft is also Korean, right?
I believe so. Yeah. And that Western release planned, as far as I remember. So that might be the one to go to instead, and they should be out in a beta this year.
Cool.
Yeah.
Talking about some weird decisions, by the way, I'm gonna do one of these horrible segues. So weird decisions. This week was announced that Street Fighter is going to patch their netcode. And that might not sound like a weird decision now, but the game has been out for 4 years and they have been receiving a lot of complaints about this netcode. So it's rollback netcode, but it's poorly implemented. And we talked about the netcode differences in an episode before, but basically, rollback, it kind of predicts your move and um, then resyncs if the input didn't work with it. And if you do this smoothly, it works really well. There are great examples of that. In Street Fighter, it can have really weird things happening online. So you can see like somebody jumping towards someone, and then suddenly he just teleports back and does a Hadouken, and you're like, okay, how am I going to how am I going to block that, right? So there has been a lot of complaints about that, and it's gone to a point where a couple, I think like 2 months ago or so, um, somebody literally did a patch, like a fan made patch for the netcode. And they were
Wow.
like, this took me he's like, I'm a developer, I'm pretty good, but I'm like I'm not a genius or something. And it took me a day to fix this alone. And that kind of works, but it's like crossplay between platforms. So this patch that he made, the fan made one, it kind of alienated PS4 players because it didn't work well. It only worked PC to PC, kind of. So then 2 weeks later, or 3 weeks later, somebody made another patch, fan made patch, and they're like, okay, I fixed it. Now it works with people who have it PS4, it works with people who don't have the patch, and it works with PC. And then today, Capcom, or it was this week at least, Capcom went out and said, do you know what, guys? There's a netcode update coming out. And it's been hitting the news pretty big because they're hosting the Olympics in Tokyo this year, right? And as part of the digital version with, I think is it Logitech? Uh, I don't remember. But they're doing Street Fighter 5 is one of the Olympic games as well, on the like side Olympics for video games. So there's going to be a huge online qualifier, and people have been really scared about, okay, we got to do an online qualifier in this horrible netcode, right? But now the the flames of hopes are like rekindled with this announcement, so I'm looking forward to it. We'll see what
Ha-
happens.
Have people not been like used to playing with this terrible netcode up until now, or like, I mean, if you just continue to play with terrible netcode, then I guess it's like it's fair or whatever.
Yeah, it would be fair, except that it's one-sided.
Oh,
So it's like if you and me play, for example, you can have a fantastic game, but for me, it's like watching a
yeah,
presentation, like a PowerPoint presentation or something.
right. That makes sense. Okay, that's not really very fair then. No, okay,
Yeah,
strike that. Yeah.
and I don't know exactly what they changed because I'm not I don't understand it that well, but it was something about the clock syncing or something like the timer syncing or something
Oh,
in the rounds, and that was all that was needed pretty much. But it's probably more than that, and we'll see. It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be out in next week, so we'll see what happens then. So
I assume you play a lot of Street Fighter then.
oh yeah, I do, and I hope I will be able to get on that Swedish Olympic team, but it's gonna be really hard. But we'll see. We'll
Wow.
see. Yeah.
Oh man, we gotta try and we gotta take a game of Street Fighter. I haven't been playing fighting games since like Tekken 4 or something.
Yeah, that's been a couple of years. You know, Tekken 7's out since years, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're talking like PlayStation 1 or something, I think, or 2 maybe.
4 came out on 2. That was and 3 was like the last one on PlayStation 1, so it was quite some
Right.
time ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's probably we're back there then. Okay.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Let's play sometime. But yeah, that's been like my thing this week. It's been really like I'm looking forward to that. And they're releasing a new character as well, and it's like officially the new version of Street Fighter 5 is coming out, the Champion Edition, you know, with all the tournament modes and like all new like UI, and hopefully we don't know yet, but we'll know very soon. Probably when this podcast is out, I will know how it looks. So I'm really hype. It's gonna be a good Friday.
That sounds good. That
Yeah.
sounds very
All
nice.
right, that's really cool. So, speaking of which, and bad segues, but gaming, what's happening in the gaming world is pertaining, which I thought was really interesting, is that we previously talked about Anthem, and this is also is nice, having Thomas in the room and it's connected to BioWare and EA and Star Wars: The Republic. Anthem was the big BioWare game, was developed by some of the same people as in some of the Mass Effect games, etc. And just to recap, it's an online game which where you can fly around with big mechs and shoot stuff in squads. So a little bit Destiny, and to use you guys' way of words, esque. It's a little bit Destiny-esque, but it's third-person view, and to me, a more enticing world and lore than Destiny, which is something I kind of never got into. Anthem is a weird little baby of a game. It has an amazing world, great background, really cool gameplay, which is easy to get into, cool effects and all this stuff. Open world is amazing, sound design is amazing, but it kind of suffers from what lots of other games and specifically MMOs do, which is number one, content, and lots of stuff is just broken and clunky, and so they of course they have to release it because they have to get their money back, and it's marketed as something that's completely almost finalized. There's going to be updates coming and and so it released, and that was just it. It wasn't enough in there to do. Content was coming out fast enough. Fixes weren't coming in fast enough, and the game started dying out pretty quickly. I liked just playing it, but it felt like this is like a tech demo or something.
Yeah.
And and it's been quiet, and now and then they've just done a couple of updates, and it's really horrible on social media when people are reacting to what they're communicating. And now they're saying that they're going to try to salvage it. Well, they're not saying that they're trying to salvage it, but that's what they're doing. But they're saying, oh no, we're gonna update the game in more of a in line of what the original intent was, and we're gonna see if we can deliver something that is very special for this as this game for this game. And to me, I mean, this is the comments I've been reading. It's people think like that it's a little bit too little, a little bit too late. So I'm super interested to see what's going to happen with this. Can they actually solve it? I'm thinking free to play. There's probably this traditional stuff that's always happening, and probably they'll muster up a big update that they'll promote the game again with, and then they repackage everything as with microtransactions and such. I don't think they learned from anything from previous. I think that's the case here. They're gonna call it like everything else, gonna be like Anthem Unleashed, and like every other effing online game that hasn't been going too well. But we'll see. What are you guys' thoughts? Have you guys played it, and what do you think?
Yeah. I've played a lot of it, of course. I played all the way through. The main story, of course, back when it came, it was kind of part of the job as well, I guess. But I think I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun, and it was great fun. But yeah, there was tons of stuff missing and tons of stuff that didn't really work very well. And yeah, like you say, it was. I think it was like you compare it to Destiny. It was kind of like a Destiny in terms of like the sort of the launch of the game as well. Remember Destiny had a bit of a slow start, and then it came back really successful. And we might be seeing the same thing here, maybe. Or sort of like what was it, like a Final Fantasy 14? Remember when that sort of came and tanked, completely like redid the entire thing, and came back, and now it's one of the most popular MMOs on the planet.
Yeah, like a lot of people hated that when that came out. I remember.
Yeah.
They were like, "This is the worst game I have ever played," and now I'm hearing people, "This is the best game I have ever played." So they really did a job on that.
Exactly. I hope that this will be the same for Anthem. That would be amazing, because man, there's a lot of cool stuff in that game, and there's a lot of there's a lot of fun in that game. But maybe whether they can do that. That's the question. That's the question. I hope it's another like a Destiny turnaround kind of thing. That
Yeah.
would be that.
I know because
I don't know what you
I
think,
haven't
guys.
been playing it, but I followed the story around it a lot, and I was just surprised when this came out, kind of, because I literally thought it was, down in the grave, because it's been quiet about it for quite some time.
Yeah, it's been pretty quiet, but there's been like regular updates going out. There's still people playing it and stuff, but
Yeah, it's
yeah,
just that the discussion around it has been so negative, right? Like everything
yeah,
regarding Anthem has been so negative in the sphere of gaming, like people talking, etc. So I was like, there is no way they're gonna salvage this. This is doomed. But then it went quiet, and then they're like, okay, we're gonna make this big update. So I'm excited to see what happens, because obviously I just want people to be able to enjoy a really good game. So
I think it could be like a strong comeback if they do. Probably like Leon says, if they come back with a free to play model, which is probably what they and they've done like a massive overhaul of a lot of core gameplay stuff, which is what they say. If you go through the blog post from I think it's from Casey Hudson, then he talks about that, and I think they could pull it off. Sure, I sure hope so. Because if there's one game studio I really love, then it's BioWare. But uh, and Anthem was a lot of fun. There's a lot of things in it that were really fun, I think.
It's very playable. It's a
Yeah.
very gamey game in a good way. It's arcadey in a way, with the sci-fi fantasy type background. So it's also, you feel kind of part of the world. I mean, what just going in, it's very intuitive how you lift off and how you shoot stuff, and it's just, it feels pretty
Flying is
right to
awesome.
me. Yeah, it's just everything's pretty seamless, and you feel pretty cool regardless of what class you play. And I'm thinking like, hey, go the smart route. Players create their own content, as in create a just get some arenas in there, do 8 versus 8 stuff, and let people go at it. Then you have people being able to do things while you're working on the other content. And that's a good start, of course. I don't think they can keep up with what they wanted, the original vision of chapters and all this that you get fed with the intro. There's a couple of cool those scenes when you're playing the main story, like that pushes the story forward, or tells the story from um, what happened before you got into the game. That's really alluring and intriguing. I don't think they can keep that up. It's not a necessity either, which is kind of like what I feel with Star Wars too, that they shot themselves in the foot a little bit. It's hard to keep that up for a long period of time. So they need to have mechanics where players can just have fun with other players, and then lots of dungeons and stuff, because that's always wanted. Like, you can do some sort of progression. You don't have to have customization of every little piece. I don't think that's a necessity. Yeah, people, of course, you want to look a specific way, and it ties very well into a free-to-play model. But if they can promote the other things and make that happen first, I'm not sure how many teams they have, though. I mean, it might be more than I think, but focus on those things, and then maybe you have something.
I sure hope so. I sure hope so. I'd love to see that thing succeed. I really would. Yeah, I remember I enjoyed the main story a lot, actually. That's
I saw you. I saw
some
you. I saw
really
your, your name and all these levels going up like crazy. Mister, I haven't played anything.
Well, this is a while ago, and that's like quite a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah. What is it, 2 years now?
Yeah, yeah, I gotta be around. Yeah, almost. It's quite a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
like the way they also it's a little bit more traditional, where you are taking on quite of a role. Even, I mean, you can spec and change and stuff, but then you have the tanky character, you have the fast one, you have the magician one, and you have the jack of all trades. Makes you feel
Yeah.
important in the missions too. Like, yeah, I'm the guy that tanks, and I can do the splash damage, and then you'll have the assassin type that's really quick. It goes in and out, and so it's good mechanics. Love the world. Love the world is amazing when you're zooming through, either flying underwater and all these things, and sound design of the Frostbite engine is second to none. So
That's beautiful. Yeah, that is. It's amazingly beautiful. Yeah. Well, let's hope they do something.
yeah, hey,
Yeah.
let's play it when it comes out again,
Oh,
or when
definitely.
they implement these changes, and let's review.
Something they should slap on the box as well is Lion's review of it. It's a gamey game. I think that was
Hey,
like the best review I've heard in a
yep,
while.
podcast title right there,
Yep,
or
yep. I
episode.
was already thinking it.
I'm gonna snatch that quote for like a coming a coming release trailer for the new version. Gonna be as a gamey game. By
It's a
Liam.
gamey game.
Yeah, it's a gamey
Yeah.
game, and then like do the finger guns, like.
That's great.
Exactly.
Double
Oh, actually,
guns.
yeah. That'd be kind of cool, actually.
Yeah.
I like.
All right, cool stuff. So I wanted to talk about, because this is it's pertaining also to the same kind of thing here, because we in a podcast, in an episode here recently, we talked about the re-release of Warcraft 3, and Andreas was already hinting that it wasn't received well and it has completely bombed. What was it, Andreas? It had like
Yeah, but like when we were talking about this, it was just out, like it was fresh off the shelves. Like it was nothing compared to how it became, because what it became was, I think last I checked, it was down to like 0.5 out of 10 in 10,000 reviews, something like that. It was crazy, and the first time I checked, it was like 0.9 or something, so it was like declining still. I haven't checked in a while now, but the general opinion on it has been really bad. But as I understand it, it's because people haven't, they promised a lot of stuff, and all they got was better graphics. That's like the consensus of why the reception has been so bad. Unless you guys have heard something else.
no, I
Did-
think
did-
yeah, go ahead, Thomas.
I was just about to say, like, did they? I mean, I don't know how much you followed it, but did they promise stuff that they didn't deliver? Like, is it that?
Yeah, like that's also a thing, because some people say, "Yeah, you guys promised this," and then you have other people saying, "Well, they didn't really promise that. They only promised better
Right.
graphics and that you can, as I understand it, you can play like Reforged with the old version as well, and things like
Right.
that."
Okay.
Yeah,
I saw that like, I mean, the graphics and stuff was updated and whatnot. It looked better. A lot of people were getting their, well, were like annoyed that the sort of the intro cinematic and stuff were like redone, but the rest of the sort of cutscenes and whatnot were not redone. I think I heard something about this, and people being pretty upset about that. That it seemed like they would just like redo like the beginning stuff so they can show that off, and then the rest of it is actually the original cutscenes or whatever.
yeah, I think there was a lot of that. Like people were hinting on the developers being lazy or something, and I think that comes from those kind of stuff as well. But anyway, it's been an absolute shitstorm for Blizzard. It's got to be. It can't be nice dealing with this.
Blizzard have had some interesting, and put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, they did. If I remember correctly, they didn't develop this. It was outsourced
Oh,
to a third party. But I mean, they're still publishing it, right? So
oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's still going to be them. People are, mad at for sure.
yeah, what's your thoughts on it, Lion?
No, I mean, you covered it. We touched on it, that there were people that were kind of quick on the trigger when these things happen, but when you have 10,000, and that is basically between 0 and 1, and then there's probably something to that. Then again, publisher and developer might not feel that their old game is the next coming of everything, and it's just like, okay, hey guys, here's some new graphics, go and play. So, but it's hard when you're Activision or Blizzard. It's because you have major titles that have had significant impact on the industry, and are modern pop culture history. So then you will always have a lot of eyes on you. So maybe because I didn't really see anything until lately. But then again, I mean, I don't consume all gaming media all over the place 24/7, like maybe someone that's 20 years old today or 18 or so. But I never saw it as they were bringing the game back to be super competitive to the biggest titles in the world either. So maybe people just figured that it would be better than it was supposed to be instead of just like, here's new graphics, have fun with this old game. So that could be a factor here too. But obviously there's something wrong. Obviously there's something that hasn't gone
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it all seems to boil down to what was said before and what was delivered, right? And I honestly, I don't know what was said before the release because I was kind of out of the loop with this one. I just once it was released, I just started hearing a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah, true. True. I think. I mean, if you just have a look at like what the big, gaming media says, all the bigger sites, so everybody from gaming and all these guys, they all give them pretty. They all give in it a pretty bad review. So I think that there's like that is not okay. Uh, Obviously these all these big sites wouldn't have trashed. So there's probably something wrong here, and whether that blame is on Blizzard or on, I think it was called Lemon Sky Studios or something, this studio that did the overhaul or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't quite know, but there's probably something wrong. I haven't played it. Maybe I should try and play it.
Yeah, me too. Actually, I really like Warcraft, so
I remember I loved it when I was young when it first came out. It was amazing. So maybe give it a go.
yeah.
If we come in with really low expectations, we can really positively.
Yeah, maybe it would be a
here.
1 out of 10 for us.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I can see you're correct about the. It's still like ranking as like a 0.5 now. I think as a user score on Metacritic now.
yeah.
It's quite terrible. Yeah, and 60 in by.
All right. Anyway, guys, it's a good talk about that. I think that's we'll check back in a few months and see what's going on. I have one last thing was pretty interesting to me as an old school gamer too. Is that Ubisoft, they announced that they're actually releasing a title in the Prince of Persia IP universe, and that's quite big because Prince of Persia is one of those cult cult games. It's one of those games that cult following because it was one of those old both like Amiga and also PC games, a 2D platformer type game, which was known for its brutal difficulty. Because when you had like 3 lives and you died 3 times, and boop, too bad, back at the beginning.
Yeah.
So this was quite, and this came a little bit after the NES era, and because those NES games were really tough. There wasn't initially, yeah, of course, made for kids as well, but had more of a Japanese family audience, and some of those games are relentless. And then you have the Super Nintendos and all these Mega Drives and everything that kind of was more catering towards younger people and had more cartoonish gameplay. It was a bit more simple to play, and other types of games that wasn't so hard. And then PC gaming came back a little bit, but then you had this game called Prince of Persia, where you're a character again, platformer, and there was a lot of animation in the game, so you had to really time with the keyboard to make sure you were avoiding the traps, and that was super hard. And usually, you did some fencing and stuff as well. It's really cool. Check it out on YouTube if you haven't. The original Prince of Persia.
That's where you start in a cell, right? In the beginning, if I remember.
You start in a cell, yeah.
Yeah.
And you fall on spikes and you get killed and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It also had a second release. I believe one of the first ones which was on the Super Nintendo or Nintendo 64 or something like that. It had a newer version of that. We don't need to go into detail. But anyway, and there's been there's been a movie, and there's been
I mean, there were several games on.
Several games,
Yeah.
yes, with more of like Uncharted gameplay. Some of them are still platformers, etc. But
Yeah,
but
because
so
I remember
go ahead.
Sands of Time. You could rewind time and stuff, and that was
Yeah.
like really big when that came out.
Yeah, so it's an old franchise. It has several iterations, and so Ubisoft now they are releasing Dagger in Time, Dagger of Time, Prince of Persia: The Dagger of Time. This, however, is a VR escape room type game. So that's
Huh.
interesting. So yeah. So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, that's kind of a hard thing to say when you just threw it out because I'm kind of shocked because that's not what I thought it would be. But the more I think about it, the more the idea kind of grows on me. I have to say, like an escape room and Prince of Persia style in VR. Just the whole escape room and VR seems like a really good mix in itself. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, so I mean it could be some big studios have done smaller VR games to test the waters out. Epic made Robo Recall, which is a really fun game for VR. If you haven't tried it, try it out. It's amazing. This seems to, from reading, to be initially just for VR arcades. We'll see what happens with it. But it's just an interesting thing that's all these old franchises keep coming back and successfully so. So it'll be interesting to see what this is all about. The escape room thing has a few other types of games within the category for just regular VR, and it's fun. It makes sense because it usually doesn't involve a lot of movement. But for an arcade, they could probably implement that pretty fun in a fun way that you can climb around and you can switch stuff and do things. So I'm interested to see what happens. So once that trailer drops, we will post it up and add it to the podcast. I think. Did any of you guys before we end off? Did you guys ever play the original Prince of Persia?
Like I played a little bit of it, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah. That's one of those franchises I remember playing when I was like, yeah, a kid, like quite young, but it's so long ago. And it was never one of my favorites. I was never like too much into that type of game, but I do remember it, and it seems like it's kind of been dead for a while, and I'm surprised that they're bringing it back, kind of, because they've not done anything with the franchise for a long.
I think the latest, like except for the movie, like game-wise, I think they released something on PS3.
It's a while ago, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like something. I think there was one game on PS3 at least.
Do you think that's why they released this as like they sort of bring Prince of Persia back as a VR game because VR is kind of like still interesting. It's still kind of cool, but it's not really like super mainstream yet. It's not something everybody has. Do you think that's why they maybe trying?
I mean, it's an interesting idea because if you go to like new unthreaded ground like VR, even though it's been out for a while, it's like, okay, we have this IP that people really like, and we haven't done anything with it in a long time. So maybe that can be enough to get enough people to try this cool idea we have out, So if we can get some new audience that want to try cool VR stuff, we can get some of the old Prince of Persia people to try it out, Maybe we can find something there. Or what do you think, Lion?
Yeah, I think you're onto something there because people that buy VR headsets are usually a little bit of the older demographic because it requires a certain amount of money to buy an expensive headset and a computer that can run it. So in that matter, when these guys sat in a room and said like, okay, so we let's try out VR stuff. And I'm just generalizing big time here, but then it's like, okay, so who buys headsets? Okay, so it's usually these people that are about this age, a little bit older and have money, and they need something that they recognize. So they probably played Prince of Persia at some point, and let's do an escape room because we can build one room and sell the game to arcades. And because when you do that, you rent out the software, and for every time a visitor plays that specific game, there's a royalty fee going back. So they could probably crank something out pretty quick. And then they can see how popular it is compared to the other games. And then they can see like, okay, this was obviously successful. let's build out a few more and let's release it on Oculus and go from there. Something like that, along those lines, I think, probably.
Yeah.
Because cranking out something, even though it's not perfect, if you have a team that's already they already know how to develop for VR, it doesn't take many weeks to get something just testable out. Because you can use Unreal Engine, you can use different types of game engines to just make something that's interesting enough. And then they can do polish along the way, etc. So
it's very interesting for sure. Very, very interesting. I assume there's probably like a fairly big fan base of this franchise that have been waiting for a long time on like a mainline game. You think they're gonna be upset that it's not gonna be another big entry?
You mean like Half-Life fans?
For example, that's a very recent example of it.
With Half-Life Alyx, so that was pretty much the same thing, right?
Probably
Exactly.
not as big as Alex. For like a Half-Life, it's not going to be that. Because,
Yeah, of course, but I mean, the
Half-Life
situation can be kind of similar in a way,
Yeah. It's also depending. I mean, they are building an escape room, and I think that if you say that you're as a hardcore Prince of Persia fan as a Half-Life, I don't think you're as bothered if it's an escape room as it would be if it was a full game where you can run around and.
Yeah, but if you look at the undertitle as well, I mean, Sands of Time, right? It was cherished by a lot of people, and you can see that they hint a little bit with the Dagger of Time. I mean.
Oh yeah.
So that there is for
Clever.
sure they try to pander to like all kinds of Prince of Persia fans as well. So.
Oh, for sure. I mean, these guys are smart people. Regardless of what you think about publishers, when it comes to communicating with directly with the consumer or developing games, they're usually smart business people, so they'll figure that out quickly. Let's just put something in there. Yeah, Dagger, and then in of time, boom.
Yeah.
There's your game.
No, but it's gonna be fun and see what becomes of it.
Yeah, let's follow it and see what happens. I'm interested because I own a VR headset, so I'll be interested to see if it comes out later on Oculus.
I still don't have one.
Hey, come over here and test it out.
Yeah, this is how Lion does it. He's like always, like, here, come into my VR dungeon at home. I'm gonna put on some weird stuff that will mess you up forever. I'm really scared to get over there.
Hey, I'm gonna change your life.
Yeah.
Come over here. I'll change your life.
In my VR dungeon.
Do it. Just do it. I have some really weird stuff to explain.
I might take you up on the offer one day.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, guys, it's been the hour. It's been really cool having you here, Thomas, and I hope we can have you again to lighten things up.
Of course. I'll replace Andreas any day.
God damn it.
For sure. Here's a little Thomas promo as well. Thomas does some amazing social media work. Working in the industry. If you want to follow him and listen to his, rants about stuff, if there are any, go and check out his Twitter. We will, if he wants to post it later.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. We can post it. We can post it for sure. I'm at Thomasively. So that's like Thomas and massively put together. You'll see it in the description box or something below, I'm sure.
Boom. Perfect. Andreas, any last words before we head out?
Are you gonna ask me that same question when I go to your VR dungeon?
Ooh.
But maybe it's just a gamey game,
There's not going to be any heading out when you go there. That's like you're going to be stuck there, buddy.
No, let's hope for that gamey game instead.
Okay. Well, that about wraps it up. Okay, guys. I hope you had fun. If you have any comments on any of the stuff that we blabbered and rambled about, feel free to post it. Find us on our Discord or in Wasder. We got some really new cool stuff. We got a Go Live gallery. We got an LFG where you can find people for your clan and vice versa. So go and check that out at wasder.gg. All right. Everyone have a nice weekend, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Guys.